Table Decision. I'm your host, Wyatt Brekenoff, and for today's video, we're going to talk about COVID-19, but more importantly, how it's related to grocery stores. So I'm a cashier at a grocery store, so I thought I could give my perspective, at least working at my job, compared to what COVID-19 is doing nationwide and all the guidelines that Trump is suggesting and cities are putting in place. COVID-19 has been all over the news, and many cities and states and really the whole nation has put these guidelines into effect, such as restaurants are now have to do takeout only, including Subway and fast food chains like Chick-fil-A and other things like that. But there's also guidelines such as if your job is not necessary to be there in person, such as like a grocery store worker or a healthcare provider, that you should stay home, such as why project managers and other things like that have to stay home due to the suggested guidelines. And I'm seeing in the state of Texas through my parents and friends and other things where their parents are also staying home and working from home compared to going into the office, which is rather interesting in itself. But it's brought up a lot of interesting components that we really haven't experienced, or at least I haven't experienced before. But I thought I would first start with information about my particular grocery chain and how we're dealing with the COVID-19 and the massive amount of panic shoppers that are going through it, and my thoughts over the situation as a whole. And I don't really know the full purpose of the video, but I just thought I would give my perspective as being someone who's kind of on the other side compared to the average shopper who's just trying to get their supplies. So I made a rough timeline on this piece of paper here about the certain events that we've put together in guidelines. And as you can see, my writing is awful, but the glare is pretty bad, so you probably can't read it anyway. But anyway, I made this timeline, and I just started it 2 weeks ago, and I believe that this one in particular was a month ago, but it doesn't really particularly matter that much, just more in the process of what came first is really the most important thing. But anyway, it's on hand sanitizer and soap. So my particular grocery chain put limits about 2 weeks ago on hand sanitizer and soap with 2 apiece. And then soon after, we had to put limits on rice and bread, and that limit went from 4 to 2. So now it's 2, so you can buy 2 breads and 2 rices, or 2 rices and no breads. Anyway, you get the point. And then we also, soon after that, put limits on toilet paper, which is a rather interesting one because I don't exactly know what the toilet paper is particularly used for. But anyway, long story short, we had to put limits on toilet paper. And then soon after that, we put limits on chicken and beef with 2 per piece or 4 for a piece. And that limit's gone anywhere from 2 to 4, depending on how much we have in the particular guidelines that day. So after all of that, it's rather interesting to see the different shoppers what come through the average lane of the grocery store. And because of that, we had to put limits on other types of foods. Well, I'm not sure other grocery chains or other grocery stores have done, but it would be rather interesting to see if your grocery store has done this in the comment section or whatever. Have they put limits on frozen foods and canned foods? We put limits on those as well. We put limits on how many pizzas you can get and how many frozen vegetables you can get, as well as how many limits on canned beans and canned vegetables you can get as well. And the canned vegetables and canned foods is 8. And the canned pizzas, the frozen vegetables or frozen pizzas, I believe, are 8 and 4, with pizza being 4 and veggies being 8. I'm not particularly certain on that one. It's 8 or 6, and again, they change somewhat frequently depending on how much we got in stock. But it's rather interesting to see the different workplaces that are getting affected by COVID-19. And that is more particular what I wanted to talk about. But before I get there, I wanted to talk a little bit about what the particular grocery store is doing for keeping COVID-19 under control within the store due to the massive amount of people that come through it. And as cashiers and baggers and managers of the store what are trying to do to keep the store clean, in other words. So my particular grocery store hours were usually 6 a.m. to 12 p.m., being midnight, 6 a.m. to midnight. And we recently switched to 8 to 8, so 12 hours. And that was about a week ago at this point. And because of that, we've been able to allow for more stalkers. So we have shifts where let's just keep it simple and say if you come in at 5, you'll work till 10. Really, the shifts are 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours. It's within that range. You don't really have too many 5-hour shifts. But anyway, just keeping it simple. So when the store closes at 8, you'll have a couple of people, normally like 6 people, stay for an extra 2 hours from within their shift, and they'll help restock or get carts from outside and things like that in order to keep the store clean. But the real interesting thing that my particular store has done, and I'm not sure other stores have done, but I'm pretty certain that they at least have something similar. They have 2 employees along with a maintenance worker who go around and clean. So they call themselves the task force, which is kind of silly. But anyway, it's 2 people. What all their job is to go around the store and clean. So they'll clean the cashier station, they'll clean the bagger area, they'll clean the aisles, they'll clean anything a lot of customers touch and employees touch for that matter. We also have hand sanitizer at each one of the cashier stations, which we've always had, but we also have another hand sanitizer for the baggers so that each person has hand sanitizer that they can use after each person or when they feel like they need to use it. Another thing we recently done is put up a shield. I think it's for sneezing or coughing, but anyway, it's a shield right above where we stand when we cashier the things out, and I'm pretty sure it's a sneeze shield, but anyway, it goes and you'll have your cashier station, like your keypad, your computer, and you'll have your receipt paper, and then you'll have your coupon machine, in particular the store, and it's the other way because anyway. And the shield doesn't go past theirs, and that's where a lot of customers end up standing. So I'm a little confused on why exactly it's there, but it's just another precaution to keep everything safe as a whole. But the stores had to modify their hours, not just so that they can keep everything clean and restock. It's also to make sure that they have enough people during those hours to actually work. Because in particular, I would say just keep numbers simple. There would be 12 employees for the average weekday. There's a little more than 12, but anyway, keeping numbers simple. Now we have anywhere from about 18 to 20. So we have about 6 to 10 more people than we usually have every weekday to make sure that the customers get out of there within a reasonable time. And also to make sure everything stays clean, because we've always had at least 2 actual employees and a maintenance worker make sure that everything is kept clean within the cashier area and within the customer shopping. So COVID-19 within my particular grocery store and within my particular job has seen a huge increase. I believe the store made in a 2-day weekend about $2.7 million. I heard that. I'm not particularly sure if that is correct or not, but anyway, it sure felt like we made $2.7 million. And I know for a fact that our store made more than we made in Harvey, which was a local hurricane that hit the city pretty hard. So with all that into account and all the limits that are going into these shoppers, you'll have your occasional shopper which just there for their weekday shopping or just shopping for the week, and won't be able to buy as many items as they usually buy because other people are preppers, and well, not really preppers because preppers saw it coming, but you get my point. They stocked up an extra amount. And as a cashier, you'll have your different experiences between those different type of shoppers. And I have had both myself. But it's just interesting to see how my particular job is getting more increased, while I see like my dad and other friends' parents who are having to work from home, and their job isn't exactly being increased as much as I see my job being increased. So it's just an interesting component that the particular field I'm working in now is getting an increase of how many people are there and how much work there's actually to do compared to everyone else seeming to have almost a decrease due to the change of environment. So it will be interesting to see how COVID-19 keeps affecting grocery stores and other jobs. But I just felt like I wanted to give this update in particular because I felt like I had a little bit of a different angle than your average shopper. See you on the next video.